current exchange rate right now is okay. It's fluctuating about 723 and 750. So depending on where you are going on the black market or whether you go with the central bank rates, that's where the franc is being fluctuating. Yeah.
All right. And what does the outlook for next week look like when it comes to the markets in Rwanda?
Well, come again?
What are your expectations next week in regard to the markets in Rwanda?
Well, from the look of the, at the closing bell today, it looks like we have a seller's market in a way. We have, the demand and supply of both sides, but we have more offers on the board on all counters actually. The Bank of Kigali has outstanding offers of 150,000, 51,000 between 280 and 300 Rwanda francs. We also have the outstanding offers on Crystal Telecom and Bradilwa. So mainly we are looking at sellers market right now and a few bids on the board. So I must say that the market should be fluctuating around the same brackets really. So they will not see any much change most likely next week. Although we are seeing more offers on the market at the moment.
Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate the update and hopefully we can speak to you again next week.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. That is Pierre Celestin Rwabukumba, who is the Chief Executive for Rwanda's Stock Exchange, speaking to us about the markets in Rwanda. Let's now take a look at this story here. And CBA grew its customer base through mobile money, with at least 250 new customers being enrolled onto M-Shwari every month. So far, the bank has 10.9 million M-Shwari accounts with total deposits of 10 billion shillings and total disbursed loans of 20 billion shillings.
Right. Thank you, Isaac, for joining us. And the first thing is the half-year numbers that you've just talked about, 2.8 billion profit before tax. You can tell us what drove this growth.
Okay. I think the growth was driven by improvements in our income. Secondly, recoveries which we were able to achieve on some of the old non-performing loans. Yes.
And talking about customer deposits also went up, and also the loan book also grew. You can tell us what you attribute this to, the kind of customers that you are lending to and the ones that are depositing to.
Okay. We lend substantially to the corporate sector, which comprises 70% of our total lending of 104 billion shillings. And the balance of the lending is to the retail sector, which is essentially individuals, including M-Shwari, where the net outstanding loans as at June was just around 1.4 billion shillings. But in terms of disbursements for the half year to June was in excess of 20 billion shillings. Yes.
And in terms of customer deposits on M-Shwari?
Total customer deposits are 144 billion shillings for the group. M-Shwari deposits are just close to 10 billion shillings. Yeah.
And let's talk about your customers through mobile money. Also talking about Empower in Tanzania, there seems to be in multiples when you compare to those in conventional banking. Maybe you can tell us what is driving this and the projections going forward.
Okay. I think that what drives use of mobile banking services is essentially the convenience. The fact that a tool which you would normally use for your day-to-day activities can actually support your banking transaction activities. That is what I attribute the success for what we are doing too. Yes.
And you talked about partnering with a telecommunication company and also going to 2 new markets with M-Shwari. You can tell us about that.
I can't unfortunately disclose all the details, but we are partnering with another telecom company outside of Kenya and Tanzania to basically try and replicate the success of M-Shwari into other markets.
Are we talking about Uganda?
We are talking about East Africa.
Okay. Let's talk about the medium-term note that you issued last year and listed on the NSE in January. You know, it was oversubscribed. You had plans to go to the market again mid-June. We've not seen you do that. Maybe you can tell us why.
Yeah. I think that the success of the medium-term note was actually a very encouraging sign for us. I think that the market parameters have changed slightly. We are currently evaluating the market and the interest rate environment before we can make a decision as to whether to exercise the options, which were there from the beginning, because you'll recall that the approval we had was to issue an MTN of 10 billion shillings. With 5 billion shillings and an option of up to 2 billion shillings, and then 3 billion shillings after that. We decided that having successfully issued the 5 billion shillings and exercise the 2 billion shillings option, we probably watch the market and see what happens. Unfortunately, what has happened recently is that the interest rate environment has been upward, and so the timing for that second tranche is perhaps not right. But this is something we'll continue to evaluate on a quarterly basis, and if there is need, we will come back to the market. If there's no need, then we'll just hold on to our approval. Yes.
These funds were to go to regional expansion and also improving your Tier 2 capital. Maybe you can tell us what you've achieved so far with the funds.
Substantially improving our Tier 2 capital has been the use. We've reinvested some of the money into Tanzania and into Uganda. We are still also exploring other markets, other opportunities in the region where some of this investment would essentially be used. Yes.
Thank you for your time.
The Communications Authority of Kenya will soon commission an independent research firm to conduct a study on market dominance in the country's ICT sector. The study, which will cost about 30 million shillings, is expected to point out the different companies that have 50% market share in various segments of the sector. KTN's Charles Gitonga has that report.
Kenya's ICT sector has registered significant growth in recent years, increasing its contribution to GDP from 8.9% in 2006 to 13% today. As such, the sector watchdog, Communications Authority of Kenya, has had to step up regulation in the industry to ensure level playing field for all stakeholders.
Dominant firms attract more scrutiny, considering that any anti-competitive action could be detrimental to the market as a whole.
According to recent draft amendments to the Kenya Information and Communications Act, any company controlling more than 50% in a specific market segment will be declared dominant and will operate within stricter rules henceforth.
We need to do it in a scientific way to make sure that everybody is satisfied that what we have done is geared towards regulating dominance in the market.
But even as the authority plans to commission a study on dominance in the sector, the topic is already generating a heated debate. In recent days, Airtel Kenya, which controls 20.2% of the telecommunications market, has called for Safaricom, which controls 67.1%, to be declared dominant. But Safaricom insists that the label is punishment to innovative investors in the sector.
We are not in any way hurting their investments. If that is what they say, my answer is we are not hurting their investments. What we are doing is to make sure that we have a balanced scorecard.
However, the Communications Authority maintains that it is yet to declare any company as dominant, but will do so once its study is complete in an estimated 1.5 years. For the telecommunications subsector, the study will seek to establish dominance in voice calls, SMS, data, infrastructure and mobile money, among other market segments. Recent statistics from the regulator show that the market leader Safaricom has more than 50% market share in all of these segments. As it stands, Safaricom has 65% market share in mobile data subscriptions, 71.7% in the voice market, and 91.6% in the SMS market. If this remains unchanged, then Safaricom will be declared a dominant player in all of these market segments.
There are various markets, and we would not want to identify ourselves with anybody who wants to say that we have chosen a certain player to be able to make rules around it.
Once a telecommunications company is declared dominant, it will lose the freedom to change tariffs or effect certain marketing strategies that are perceived to be harmful to the competition. Interestingly, the Communications Authority is starting the study even before Parliament approves the amendment to the Information and Communications Act that will allow the CA's definition of dominance. Charles Gitonga, KTN News.
And the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ISPAC, has taken issue with the recently passed Companies Bill 2015, exempt about 60% of Kenyan companies, especially the small and medium enterprises, from audits. The bill classifies a small company as one with annual turnover of not more than 50 million shillings and assets worth not more than 20 million shillings, meaning that many SMEs will not be required to get professional financial audits. ISPAC said the bill could negatively affect the economy if small companies are exempted from audits, since shareholders and lenders will be denied crucial information to access the performance of the firms, even as the Kenya Revenue Authority loses out on taxes. The law also says that small businesses are at risk because they will not access prudent financial advisory on the health of their businesses. The auditors are now calling on President Uhuru Kenyatta not to assent to the bill. Instead, ISPAC recommends that the threshold be set at 5 million shillings, and they also want the bill to provide a minimum set of qualifications and competences for members to audit committees. According to ISPAC, this will ensure that they are well grounded on matters of finance and accountability, and are able to exercise their mandate of scrutinizing financial reporting and disclosure. I would now like to get into a conversation about I think Abby Agena has actually more details on that. But before we can even get to that, my director says we should move on now to another story. And investors building roads under the annuity program will be compensated for damages caused by overweight trucks. The government plans to tarmac 10,000 kilometers of roads across the country over the next 5 years under the annuity program, which is based on a finance, design, build and maintain and transfer contract model. The axle load limits have been widely contested by truck owners, arguing that it needed amendments, a position the Kenya National Highway Authority has stuck to. And that conversation on axle load limits is now going to happen. And in studio, we have Engineer Muita Ngatia, who is the manager axle load control at the Kenya National Highways Authority. And Abby Agena is going to have that interesting conversation.
Well, many thanks, Joy. Looking awesome being a Friday.
Thank you.
Well, just to kick off the interview, Engineer, there's been a lot happening on our roads, as well as plans to be able to decongest Nairobi. Let's pick off the conversation from the recent plans that we've received that Kenya is planning to decongest Mombasa Road.
Oh, thank you very much, Abby Agena. I'm happy to be back at KTN. It's true, Kenya National Highways is in the process of making sure that we decongest not only Nairobi but also Mombasa. And we have undertaken a lot of projects with financing from mostly World Bank, European Union, and also African Development Bank.
Yes.
And even recently, you do recall, we indicated that we are going to improve all the way from JKIA up to Liloni.
Yes.
And this will go a long way in decongesting Nairobi when you combine that with the upgrading of the superhighway, the superhighway.
How soon are we looking to see this project come to fruition?
That road is being designed in 3 sections, JKIA to Likoni at the bypass. Yes. That's the first section. Likoni, James Gishuru, that's the second section. And then the third section is James Gishuru, Liloni.
Yes.
Some of the sections design is complete, and we have even invited for bidders to express interest. Some sections are also undergoing the finalization of the designs, but we do expect that towards sometime next year we should have in place the first contract on either of those three sections, but mostly these sections between Likoni Road and James Kechoro.
I was just having a look at the impression, and you're seeing a lot of interchanges and overpasses as well. Speak to us about how much is this project likely to cost?
I don't have the figures because in any case we have not reached the bidding stage, so we cannot clearly indicate how much. This is likely to come out when we invite the bidders to put in their bids. Okay. But it's a massive project with, as you have indicated, the interchanges, because we want to control access. It's fully controlled access to Mombasa Road by having the interchanges at different levels of the roads closing each other.
Interesting. I know we digressed a bit because your line of specialization is in axle load.
Yeah, no problem. I can always comment generally.
Of course, engineer. Looking at some of the major initiatives that have been coming across from your ministry, you've been trying to ensure that at the weigh bridges, trucks take less time when it comes to the weighing, as well as just ending corruption by automating the systems at the weigh bridges. Give us an update. So far, you launched one of the systems around key weigh bridges at Mariakani, at Malaba, and truck owners are still complaining of long queues.
Thank you. I'm happy that you are quite conversant with what we are doing at the weigh bridges. The whole intent has been to remove as much as possible the human interface where these issues about corruption usually crop up. Correct. By basically automating the processes, and on the four weigh bridges that you have mentioned, Mariakani, Mlolongo, Gilgil, and Webuye, we do have the high-speed weigh in motion, which doesn't take any time. The vehicle is weighed as it moves at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. And we only call in those vehicles that are suspected to be overloaded. Yes. At most 15%. So you can see that more than 85% have no business getting into the weigh bridge. So that complaint about long queues, I think, is a bit misplaced. Because unless it is indicated to us the specific incidences.
What's the average turnaround time?
Between...
When it comes to a truck going into the weighing scale to the point that it exits?
The computer system is programmed such that from the time a vehicle is expected to go into the weigh bridge for weighing, the computer gives it an allowance of 1 hour. Yes. Within which that vehicle is supposed to have left the weigh bridge. But generally, the vehicle will be out of the weigh bridge area in less than 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah. And that is the only the 15% that we talk of on the mainstream, because even for the high-speed weigh in motion, we don't have it on both sides of the road. Yes. We have it on the mainstream, like at Mombasa, we have it on the left. At the river, we have it on the right, because we have to cross the road. Gilgil, we have it on the left. Webuye, we have it on the left. Those are the mainstreams.
But engineer, if you look at some of the key issues that a number of truck owners have been trying to propose, is that why can't all this be done from the port so that the trucks can be able to hit the road and go to the destination? Because you're looking at some of the trucks spending quite a number of time at these weigh bridges, which businessmen say it's translating into losses.
I tend to disagree with that sentiment. Before 2 years ago, a vehicle coming from Mombasa to Kampala used to take as many as 18 days.
Yes.
Nowadays, that has been reduced to 3 to 4 days, following the measures that we have undertaken in conjunction with the transport companies, in that we want to have them on board.
Yes.
We have even come up with, even on the line of axle load control, we have come up with self-regulating charter, which was signed last year by
the key stakeholders.
14 of them,
yes,
witnessed by the Cabinet Secretary in September, where they undertook to follow the axle load rules. But the issue of having these vehicles weighed at the port, you see, the main business for a port is throughput. That's what they call it.
Sure.
They want to discharge as many vehicles as possible. At what point are you going to weigh them? And also, Mombasa and Nairobi is a distance of 500 kilometers. Yes. A lot can happen in 500 kilometers. It makes business sense to add an extra container onto one which was compliant. So we cannot afford to not to weigh in between, because to safeguard our road network, we have to have those weigh bridges. At those, in any case, there are very few instances. We are talking of 4 on the northern corridor.
Yes.
They used to be 7.
Yes.
We did away with 3 at Maraba, yes, Eldoret, and Mai Mahiu. Now we only have 4. I think it's not much to demand that we weigh those vehicles at only 4 places in an effort to protect our road network.
Interesting. The other big issue has been on overloading. And we've seen also Kenya trying to crack the whip on transporters who are engaging in overloading. Perhaps share with us the statistics when it comes to how rampant is it, and so far, how have you been able to turn it around?
I keep going back to about 3 years ago, compliance levels. That is those vehicles that were compliant both on the gross vehicle weight and the axle loads were in the neighborhood of 75 to 80%.
Yes.
But as we speak now on the northern corridor, we are talking of more than 99%. So it's only these, so most of the time even less than 1% who are found to be overloaded, but mostly not on the gross vehicle weight, but on the axle.
Okay.
So we have made tremendous progress, and thanks be to our main stakeholders, these are the transporters, for us to achieve at the level where we are. On the issue, these other issues of corruption, I don't want to talk about it, but
you can talk about it.
There is minimal corruption. It's not even something that we can very much talk about. It is totally minimized. And we have achieved that minimization through automation processes and making sure that we reduce as much as possible the human interface, and even when anybody tries to play some trick, because corruption would happen where one gives money in order not to be weighed.
Sure.
Even if that vehicle is not weighed, it is automatically detected by the automatic number plate recognition cameras and the high-speed way in motion. This information is retained. So we can still impound that vehicle at any other weigh bridge in future. Yes.
Finally, I would want us to discuss, there are some incentives that Kenya was trying to introduce when it comes to compensation, especially for trucks that were overloading. Just bring us to speed with that proposal.
I don't understand what you mean by compensation. To compensate who?
There was a plan that was suggested by truck owners that Kenya should work on a proposal when it comes to compensating in the event that you find a truck that has overloaded. Of course, the law as it stands, they have to pay the fine and they have to reduce the tonnage that they have exceeded with.
Yeah.
So there was a proposal. I don't know if you're aware of this.
I'm not aware of it, But the law as it stands, we do not allow, in any circumstances, a vehicle to go back to the load with an overload. If it is overloaded, it has to be taken to court and pay a court fine, come back to the weighbridge, redistribute or offload the excess. But we do not allow, so that's why I'm failing to understand what they meant by compensation. I don't know whom we would be compensating. Yeah, I think that issue, maybe I need more light into it, but I don't see a situation whereby the government can compensate anybody for not overloading. They are not supposed to overload in the first place.
Sure.
So why should we compensate? We can't compensate anybody.
It was to compensate,
in fact,
those who are following the law, actually.
Maybe unless you are talking of incentives.
Yes.
Incentives would be there. And we have had one incentive whereby the law demands that we charge you if you are found to be overloaded, either on the axle or the gross vehicle weight. But currently, if you are not overloaded on the gross vehicle weight, but one or two axles happen to be off tolerance,
yes,
we allow you to redistribute at the weighbridge and proceed.
Okay.
But in the event that you are overloaded on the gross vehicle weight, then we take you to court. We have also allowed them to have 5% tolerance on every axle. That is the kind of incentives. Okay. If it is incentives that we are talking of, then those ones are there. Then we have also come down to the local transporters, those who transport building materials. We are encouraging them because they were not in the initial umbrella self-regulating charter. We are encouraging them to come up with self-regulating SACCOs, and we have launched 5 number in Nairobi alone.
Yes.
Whereby they control their members. They have a code of ethics that they are going to comply with the axle load limits. We also control the body sizes, because the weight is a proportion of how much can the body carry.
Interesting.
We are also dealing with that, and we are achieving a lot of progress. And again, I encourage more of these transporters to come together, form those circles. We'll work with them. And we also, within those circles, if the circle is active, we are quite reluctant on insisting on the axle, which actually damages the road, but we mostly concentrate on the gross vehicle weight, and we give some tolerance on the gross vehicle weight. But for those who are in circles, because we want to have them on board. Yes. Because we are partners. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a good place to end it from. We've been speaking to Engineer Mwita Ngatia, who is in charge of the Axle Load Control Unit at the Kenya National Highways Authority, just sharing with us some of the updates when it comes to giving incentives to various transport companies, as well as the outlook for the logistics business. Well, we now want to take a couple of other stories across the region. While Kenya's national carrier was positioning itself towards becoming more competitive, Ethiopian Airways was taking to the skies. The airline has surpassed its revenue and profitability targets, and now Ethiopian Airways plans to expand its global routes further and grow its fleet to jets. Here is more.
As national carrier Kenya Airways continue to experience financial turbulence, its competitor Ethiopian Airline is making it big. The airline exceeded its revenue target to $2.3 billion in its fiscal year ended July the 7th. Ethiopian Airlines plans to increase revenue to $10 billion by 2025 by doubling its fleet of 77 planes and opening new routes.
Africa is ready for business, and the rate of return for investors is growing very fast in Africa, in Ethiopia. We have planned for 43 billion Ethiopian birr by 2015. But the last fiscal year we closed about 49.4 billion Ethiopian revenue. This is gross revenue. The same with profitability. The profitability for the 5th year, which is financial year, the last financial year was 2.9 billion birr, but we closed the year with 3.5 billion birr net profit.
Group CEO Tewolde Gebre Mariam attributed the growth to rise in passenger numbers and expansion of maintenance, catering and aviation training services.
For us, it is an essential financial instrument, and we've been working with the U.S. Exim Bank for more than 30, 40 years now, and we have a very good relationship, and the bank has a very good level of confidence on Ethiopian Airlines.
The airline has targeted the growing trade ties between Asia and Africa in recent years, as well as that with Brazil by inaugurating flights to Rio de Janeiro. It also launched flights to the U.S.
So we want the U.S. Exim Bank to reopen, and that was our main point of discussion with President Obama.
The world said Ethiopian Airlines was reaching out to other African carriers and encouraging them to strengthen their operations to better serve flyers on the continent. Non-African carriers now account for 80% of travel between Africa and the rest of the world, up from 40% in the 1980s.
We are studying Jakarta, Indonesia, and Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and more points in India, and of course more points in China. We're studying Chengdu and Shenzhen closely.
Airlines body, the International Air Transport Association, says 8 of the 10 fastest growing markets in terms of percentage growth in passenger demand over the next 5 years will be in Africa.
And still keeping with matters aviation, NOAA's Australia's Qantas Airways returned to full-year profit in fast turnaround after last year's significant loss. The company also is giving a small return to shareholders for the first time in 6 years. Here's more on that update.
Soaring profit sending Qantas Airways into the biggest turnaround in Australian corporate history. Last year the airline was in free fall, but it's climbing high now in a return to full-year profit, raking in over $700 million US, but still not quite hitting what analysts had expected. The so-called flying kangaroo also says the fleet's getting an upgrade. 8 new 787 Dreamliners will fly longer and more fuel-efficient routes. Shares in the airline hit their highest level in about 7 years at the start of trade on Thursday before tumbling the rest of the day. But shareholders still have cause to cheer as they will get a one-off payment, the first return in 6 years. All thanks to the company's massive cost-cutting measures, says CEO Alan Joyce.
If it wasn't for our transformation program, Qantas would not be announcing a profit today, nor would be announcing a return to shareholders, nor would be announcing the acquisition of the 787s.
The airline also has low global oil prices to thank for its sky-high profits. Fuel costs dropped by over $400 million this financial year.
Interesting developments there around the aviation sector. We now want to dive into the logistics business, and I'm now joined by Kajuju Ngara, the communications manager for Scania East Africa. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much.
Speaking about the logistics business, we know Scania has been trying to reposition itself in the regional market, and the biggest initiative that the company undertook was the launch of the P410. Tell us about this.
The P410, it's actually a Scania Optimize. The Scania Optimize is an upgraded version of the P410. Mm-hmm. What that means is that we've bundled it up. We've put things like fleet management systems. Mm-hmm. In fact, from June this year, all our trucks and buses will be coming with free fleet management system. Mm-hmm. And the Scania Optimize has a fleet management system, maintenance contract, and it also has a fleet management system maintenance contract. Mm-hmm. And it also, we've modified it a lot. Mm-hmm. It has air suspension. Mm-hmm. There are quite a number of things that we've done.
Interesting.
It's a 6x2. Mm-hmm. In this market, 6x4s are the ones that are dominating.
Yes.
6x2 essentially is a highway truck. There's a lot of business going on from Mombasa to Kampala that really does not need a 6x4. 6x4 is heavily spec'd and also does not really do much for the fuel consumption. Of all our operators, 50% of the operators' cost is fuel. We, as Scania East Africa, are looking to increase the bottom line of our customers by reducing that fuel cost just by 10%, thereby increasing our customers' bottom line by 10%. That is actually what the Scania Optimize is all about. Scania Optimize has been optimized for ideal fuel consumption. It's doing 2.7 liters per kilometer. And that is, I think, we have the lowest fuel consumption across the board.
Of course, that is debatable. We have the likes of Mercedes, we have the likes of other companies that are in this business. But moving away from that, paint for us a picture of how has the logistics business been growing for Scania in East Africa?
The logistics business for us has been growing in leaps and bounds, especially this year. Ever since last year when Scania was taken over, when Scania came to Kenya as the parent company to invest, we've seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot of change. In fact, this year we had a very high target that it seems that we are 80% on target. The logistics business for us is growing. We have big companies like the Sanganis now who are part of our customers. We have Roy Holiers. For us, I think business is just booming. It's much better than ever.
And what do you think is the reason behind the booming business?
There's a lot of construction activities going on. There's a lot of trade, you know, across the East African countries. Most of our customers are going around East Africa. You know, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, coming back here. So there's a lot of trade. I mean, so because of this surplus in trade, for us in the logistics, it's really, as I told you, business is booming for us and we're thankful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now that you're mentioning that business is booming, we all know that the Standard Gauge Railway project is coming up, and a number of companies have been a bit uneasy with this project, saying it might run them out of business. What's the case for you guys?
Of course, it may take some of our business, but there's still a lot of things that cannot be transported by the Standard Gauge Railway. We are specialized cargo. We are seeing a boom in the construction sector. Scania, we have tippers. There is oil that can really not be transported in the Standard Gauge Railway. There's a lot of opportunity still that the railway cannot really act as the only link for all our East African countries. So yes, it will take some of our business, but not a huge chunk, not something that would make us not sleep at night.
Interesting.
Yes.
Of course, we might want to ask you more about how is Scania positioning itself to tap into other countries that remain untapped in East Africa, the likes of Ethiopia as well as South Sudan. Make it brief.
South Sudan, still until they sign their peace treaty, we're not really going to discuss about that. Ethiopia, interestingly, some of our customers are actually trying to ferry that route. Those are still things that we're looking at. So I really wouldn't want to comment much on that then.
Many thanks there, Kajiju from Scania, just sharing with us the outlook for the logistics business, saying that business has been booming and they remain optimistic when it comes to competing with new entrants such as the Standard Gauge Railway line. Well, my name is Abiagina Joy. Doreen Bira is coming up next with News Track.
We do.